Welcome to the C.S. Joseph podcast. I'm your host, C.S. Joseph, and today we're doing Acolyte questions. And today's question is an INFJ related question relating to the most usual INFJ profession known as computer programming. And so the question reads, what are some of the best resources for learning programming as an INFJ? So at the very beginning of this question, I would like to state that it's definitely not going to college or university, that's for sure. How about you just avoid that entirely and don't care about getting a degree? The reality of the situation is that you should actually focus on getting a certification and get certified for a particular programming language instead of actually doing any college courses or computer science. Now, you can enroll at a college, but don't care about the degree. Just take the specific classes that you need to take. Ignore general ed and focus on the specific classes that would just up your skills, and don't do anything else. There's no reason to go beyond that. So, but in terms of best resources for learning and programming as an INFJ, the first resource I would suggest is whatever can help you get certified with a certification training program and obviously a voucher to go take the official test and pass the test so that you can be certified in a specific language. Certifications are always more important than degrees. I always hire people based on certification. I almost always ignore degrees. Degrees mean nothing to me. Certifications mean everything to me. As for example, an entrepreneur, that would mean the same thing to any entrepreneur because a certification actually proves that you actually know what you're doing, whereas a degree does not. A degree is mostly based on the theory of the work instead of actually doing the work, whereas a certification is closer to actually doing the work. So there are a lot of options with learning computer programming. If you're going to learn computer programming, you also need to learn IT. So you can do a lot of IT trainings as well. You need to understand Ubuntu and Linux, basically. Understand Linux. Get Linux Plus certified. Get Network Plus certified as well. Make sure you're A Plus certified. Having Linux Plus, A Plus, and Network Plus certifications, that gives you all of the foundational knowledge that you need to even, be able to handle the hosting and the infrastructure behind the software that you're programming and creating yourself. And then after that, you might want to focus on specific languages. Languages I would recommend, most of all, Python and JavaScript. The rest of them, and then just variations of those. The rest of them don't really matter as much. Maybe Flutter for front-end development in the future. But yeah, for JavaScript, do React or React.js, do Node.js, Express.js as well. Make sure you understand PostgreSQL while you're at it. Postgres is super important, or MySQL or general. Wow, my son is screaming his head off right now. He's a little cranky. So that's important. And then also, but where can you go to learn? Well, you're just really going to have to do research about the certifications that are available and then just go in that direction. But in the meantime, you could learn at Code Academy or maybe lynda.com, lynda.com, or cbtnuggets.com, cbtnuggets.com, etc. Just go to these resources. Because again, it's not about the achievement, it's not about the degree, it's not about the credential, it's more of just proof of skill. That's all it really is, and certifications are nothing more than proof of skill. But if you have the skill, do it. For example, and this is actually, I'll show you a real life story. There was an INFJ who was in this audience, and he hired me one time, or earned coaching basically, and we did a coaching session. And I'm like, hey, let me show you something I'm working on. This was years ago. And I'm like, hey, here's this application that I'm trying to make for this personality test so that it can actually be used properly instead of the crappy versions that we've been using it this whole time. And I just pitched him my concept, my concept and my design concepts for Ucha, basically. And a couple months later, he came back with me and he made the interface himself. And it was so good and it was so enjoyable. And he even released it to a lot of the people in Facebook within this community so that they can enjoy it as well. It was an excellent application. And it was exactly as I had described what it should be. And, because of that, then we just decided to hire him. And now he's our doing our front end development work for Ucha, like for example, and that was just proof of skill. He didn't have no certification. I don't think he ever had any formal education. This is just stuff he figured out on his own, right? And him being an INFJ with TI Child, they're masters of logic, pure unadulterated logic, so computer programming is just their jam. And all he did was just use my concepts and my designs. I started the process, he finished the process, and he created something great. And then in proving that to me, we ended up making the decision to hire him, and he's still on the team to this day. And it's been fantastic that he's been on this team. So you got to understand, like, that's kind of more about how the world works. If you're going out there relying on a degree, if you're going out there relying on credentials, you're not going to get very far. Literally, it's just like being a friend. Show yourself friendly. Prove to the people out there, like, do some free work. Prove to them that you actually have the skill. All that matters is proof of skill. And as soon as you prove that you have the skill, they will bring you on. That's the reality of the situation. So just go out there, get the skill, and improve yourself and make yourself better over time. Practice, practice, practice. INFJs need to be focused on practicing and focused on one thing that they are practicing so they can become masters of that one thing, okay? That's literally all it is. No one benefits more from practice than an INJ type anyway, so go out there and practice your software development if you actually truly care about it that much, okay? Practice, practice, practice. And what's really good about computer programming is it's really easy to practice because if there's an error, it's going to tell you and then you just fix the error. And then you have no issue. That's what debugging is for and troubleshooting is for. And it turns into little puzzles that you need to solve, etc. That's literally the awesomeness that comes from computer programming. Whereas, like, if you're creating music as an INFJ, that's much harder, than computer programming because you have to rely on the reactions of the audience for feedbacks to whether or not you're doing a good job. Whereas the computer will tell you if you're doing a good job. So it's kind of like this little instant gratification thing. So yeah, that's in general what I recommend for computer programming for INFJs. So anyway, folks, hopefully you found this video helpful and educational and whatnot. So yeah, I'll see you guys on the next episode. Later.
You stole my heart of gold after my silver soul. Can you dig